We're one of the largest Microsoft partners globally in terms of delivering their cloud-based products, Office 365, which is kind of their marquee product, and then of course Microsoft Azure, and then that whole layer of security, which is a big topic these days in the industry about how do we secure the users that we employ and the people that we send information to in and outside the organization. So with Office 365, a lot of examples that have happened as of recent, but we've worked with some global healthcare firms and some biotechs, but more so on the global healthcare side, and looking at their patients at the end of the day and the way they do business and the way the physicians work with those patients. So through Office 365, most healthcare companies we've ran into have implemented the product, but haven't really taken advantage of what's inside of the platform. And one of those examples we had was with doctors who worked in different countries for the same physician's clinic. And what we found was that, you talk about doctors across borders or remote healthcare, things like that. We set up through what's called Microsoft Teams, a platform where we could allow doctors to put in a lot of information about themselves, from skill sets, previous history, things that they have done, all the way through, different types of diseases they had worked on. And ultimately, we created a quick and real-time way for those doctors to go out there and find what somebody else had done that they were doing research on. So when we thought about saving lives and getting to people real time, this was an amazing, breakthrough that we had with these customers. They were using Skype, which everybody I hope is familiar with these days, which is now going to kind of integrate with what's called Microsoft Teams. And we were creating video conferences on the fly for them as well. Now, that being said, these hospitals that were all over the world came to us and said, well, we have to be careful with our electronic medical records and how we deal with patient information. So what we started talking to them about was sort of how do we look at security from an internal and external perspective. And security, by the way, we know it's a big topic in healthcare. But what we said to them was that we had to take all of our users, all the way down from the physicians, the nurses, all the way up through the administrative staff, and understand how to take and secure the data that they were using and moving across the internet, whether it was internal into the hospital or external across even international borders, and ultimately secure that data. So we brought in a lot of tools that are actually part of Microsoft's new product set with what's called Enterprise Mobility and Security, and really integrated those into the Office 365 suite. The Words, the Excels, the Teams, the SharePoints, creating a global security strategy for those guys. The other thing we did a ton of was working with biotechs. And one of the things that came up with Bio was just the amount of data that they were trying to process on a daily basis. And so we started looking at the way the cloud has evolved. And as much as we had heard we're worried about moving to the cloud in biotech for security purposes, we actually went into looking at how do we maybe move data between like a Microsoft Azure and then ultimately using like high compute power to be able to process data that much faster, which gave them results which they could bring into testing environments and get products to market that much quicker. So that combined with what I talked about with security tools was super powerful. And anyway, back to it, it was most important that we understood as managed solution, that painted picture, what were we trying to achieve? So that's what we're here to do. We're here to help the physicians, the nurses, the doctors, the scientists in these labs, and ultimately just help them understand how to paint that picture of where they are now and where they want to get, rather than just think of technology like Office 365 as a tool or Microsoft Azure as a tool.